got my purple asparagus, and I've got my raspberries scattered in here.
On a hot summer day. Guess where I am? Oh, she knows we're here. Where's Gary? Ivy, you gonna show me where Gary is? Where's Gary? You're gonna show me. Let's go find Gary, because I know he's down here somewhere. Where Gary is. Can we do a garden tour?
Yes, we can.
It is Robbie from Southern California and Gary, and we're gonna follow him around. So you know what? You just take me wherever you want, and we'll go for it. So where do you want to start?
I don't know. Do you want to start with the arches?
Sure.
I'll head out this way.
Elsie! Yes, Elsie! Don't jump on me now. Let's go. Oh my goodness! You need a hard hat, Gary, out here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh, I haven't been down here. Look at the size of them. I know you gave one away and I saw him leave with it. It was bigger than these, wasn't it?
Yes, and I'm not even sure if he knew exactly what to do, but I told him to ask his daughter to look it up.
Okay, I'll let you show us what you've got going. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so down this end, I buried some kabocha squash under the avocado tree, and that came up and it's growing up the archway, so I've got a fruit coming up here. I did a lot of root pruning of the pepper trees, so now my grapevines are starting to take off. So I'm going to have this covered in grapevines. And moving forward, I've got a lot of different tomatoes. I've got purslane, the higher form of purslane. I've got sweet potatoes growing in the totes. I've got beets that I'll let go to seed, so I'll let those self-seed. I've got a variety of squashes. This is a Tennessee sweet potato squash. So I'm happy to get those going. I planted my squash a little later than I wanted to, but I should have enough time. I've got more potatoes. I've got some self-sown Malabar spinach, and that's trailing up over my arch. It's going to pretty much cover the arch. I've got some varieties of chayote squash. This one's a white chayote squash. It's got a small fruit. Got more tomatoes. This is a patty pan squash. It's starting to set some fruit. I've got a black chayote squash, and that's really taken off. It's a large one. It's a dark green colour. Got more potatoes and different things coming up scattered through here. Planted some more onions. I've got some onions here. These are some starts that I planted late. I've got more purslane. The purslane just comes up everywhere. It's self-seeding. And I've got my, of course, my fig leaf gourds. I planted these last year, so they've come back. They're a perennial squash, and they've come back with a lot of vigour. So they've taken over the whole area. Then I've got more grapes, and behind you I've got some cannas, some canna edulis. So I've got two colour forms of this. I've got the red, and I've also got the yellow. Now, to keep them flowering, I just cut off the seed heads, and the hummingbirds really like that plant. And on this end I've got two types of emu bush. I've got a taller one and a shorter one, and that covers this area here. On the outside here I've still got my elevated planters along there. I've got strawberries growing in that. Mostly strawberries. There's some mint and a few other things. Over here I've got a kiddie pool set up for strawberries. I've got this elevated. I've got copper to keep the snails and slugs out. So I set that up this year. And then I've got my stock tanks over here. I set them up to grow a few different plants. I've got a water lily that started to flower. I moved that from the other pond because this is the one that the raccoon destroyed. I've got water chestnuts that I've set up in pots. So I'm going to grow my water chestnuts in pots here. I've got more to plant or transplant. Over here I've got to harvest my onions. I've got a lot of onions here. I harvested some of the potatoes. I've got more potatoes going on the end here. So they pretty much come up whenever they feel like it, and I'll let them grow. So I get multiple crops. With the root pruning, I'm doing a lot better with my apples.
On the canyon side, Gary has Brazilian pepper trees growing all along for a windbreak, but they have very invasive roots, which takes water and nutrients from plants.
So I've got 2 apple trees that are still good. Along here I've got my papayas and I've got my asparagus. So I've got my asparagus along here. This whole wall has become a dragon fruit hedge. It's really thickened up this year. I want to just keep it as a hedge. Oh, it should go down this archway. I forgot about this archway. So with this archway I've got my potatoes. They're doing well. Some of them have started to flower. I haven't seen potato flowers for a long time. I didn't get the soil together early enough to get my tomatoes planted properly. I just had to plant them. So the soil here is really poor. It's basically clay. Along this side I've got more sweet potatoes that I'm vining up. So I like to elevate my sweet potatoes, have them trellised. That way they don't take up as much space. And I've got more chayote here. I've got a black chayote and a white chayote down the other end. And I've got more potatoes in here. And I've got a ube or purple yam that I've planted in the top layer. So I'm going to trellis that up and over the archway. So that they started a lot later this year. A lot of my tropical plants were slow to take off, but now we've got warmer weather, they should do well. Then I've got a sunchoke in the corner here. That took a long time to sprout too. Usually they sprout a little bit earlier than that, so they're about a month behind. Now my tomatoes don't look so good. I'll have to start fertilising them a little more.
Oh my gosh, I just noticed they're on both sides. They're massive on both sides.
Yeah, they've taken over my garden. They've grown everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot more fruit on this side, kind of on the shade side. And of course they've taken over this area too. So I've got fruit here and I've got fruit scattered through there. My dragon fruit are just starting to form flowers. You can't really see them, they're up high, but they've started to flower. A lot of my ponds popped a hole, so this one started to leak at the bottom there. So I'm going to move these into the stock tanks. I'll take these out and pop them up. So my water chestnuts, like that, I'll just stick that in the pot and get that going. I've got a few different types of gingers. This is a yellow butterfly ginger. I've got a couple of these scattered around. I've got a few different types of mint. This has become my favourite. This is mojito mint. I still have some mint in my different kiddie pools. A lot of my kiddie pools I'll let go dry because I want to redo them. And my hot tub here, this is my kiddie pool nursery where I start a lot of plants. I've got cannas that I need to move out and plant in different places. My turmeric's starting to come up. Well, it's starting to take off, I should say. This tree here I left to see what it was, and it's a wild type peach. I don't think the fruit's going to taste good, but I might graft a nectarine onto it and leave that here. I want to keep small trees in my garden. I had figs down here and they took over the place. They had to, I want plants that don't have invasive roots. I'm getting some decent sized pepino dulces. So that's a pepino melon. It's in the solanum family, the same as tomatoes and peppers. I'm going to let them grow into the ground. Where they touch the ground, they'll set root. So this one here is set root, so I'll just cut it off and I'll transplant it in another place.
And this is them all along this whole fence?
Yeah, all along the whole fence, this is pepino. Along the bottom is pepino. Then I have my purple possum passion fruit, and that's really taken off. It's, I think, 2 years old, and it produces an abundance of passion fruit. So I'll have a lot of passion fruit shortly, once it starts ripening up. It's a medium-sized fruit. It doesn't get really much bigger than that, but it is a really good sweet fruit. Some of my tree collards I've removed. They kind of aged out, so I should start taking more cuttings and getting that going again. My artichokes, I harvested quite a few artichokes this year. These ones came up from seedlings, so these are a year old, and I'm letting them go to flower. I don't have a good example of a flower yet. Oh, here we go. So they've got that nice purple flower. So these are starting to fade, so there'll be a lot of seed there. And what I do with the seed, I just throw in a raised bed, and when it comes up I can transplant it to wherever I want. Now moving back this way.
Now a lot of this, once the heat is gone. Oh, you've got Malabar spinach down there too. They love the heat.
But the Malabar spinach really loves the heat, and it is a good plant to grow in my garden because it self-seeds everywhere, and I like the flavour of it. So I actually like it. I know you're not that keen on it.
I'm not crazy on the consistency of it, the way that it's kind of, I'm going to use the word gel.
Yeah.
But I mean, the flavor's not bad. A little bit added to a salad is nice. But once I see the weather, when we cool down in the fall or closer to winter, this will all green up.
Yeah, I don't know if you can duck under here or go around the other way.
No, I'll duck under here. Come on, guys, keep moving.
So these kiddie pools I'm going to use for water chestnut. I've got some sweet potato coming up. That comes up everywhere now. And of course I've got my bananas in the back. They didn't like the cold, so I lost a lot to the cold. And the soil here is too shallow for them, so I want to eventually transplant them out. So right now the soil depth is about 1 foot. I notice I've got one flowering, so this one started to flower.
Where's the flower? Oh, back there.
Yeah, it just started.
Yeah, dragonflies everywhere.
I've got dragonflies everywhere. I'm going to have to redo a lot of things. I'm in the process of clearing and redoing.
It's like a maze. I have to keep up with them. You guys have to keep up with them too.
Over here I have my blueberries. I have them in tubs. That way I can control the pH of the soil. So I've acidified the soil and they're doing really well here. It's a constant harvest. I like blueberries because they don't ripen all at the same time. I've got some white butterfly ginger in this pot.
I'm just panning so you can see. And then
Okay.
in the winter, this is all covered in sweet potatoes, the ground, isn't it? And nasturtiums.
Yeah, I cleared out the sweet potatoes and nasturtiums. I'm working on building another type of archway here. I haven't been working on it for a while. I just have it in place, ready to go. And I want to set this up for yams because my ubes or purple yams really like growing on rebar. So I've got this one come up again and it's heading upwards. My scarlet runner beans, I have this one in pots and they produce a storage root system. So this one came up from a seed that I planted last year. So they store energy in the roots and die back. I've got more cannas growing in the ground here. And here I've got some yacone. With this you eat the tuber. They have a sweet tuber.
See if I can get over there. Oh, another banana. Okay, where is the yacone?
Here's the yacone here. It's related to sunchokes. And this is my belay. It's from Fiji in the Pacific Islands. John Kohler reminded me to get some of this. I've been wanting it for a while. It loves the heat and it's got a lettuce-like flavour to it. It's slightly mucilaginous, but it's a good plant that you can eat the leaves cooked or raw. I just come along and I eat the raw leaves.
It's not as, it doesn't have as much of that gel as the Malabar spinach,
No,
right?
it doesn't have as much of that gel as Malabar spinach, so it's a lot milder. And it's got a nice mild flavour. It doesn't have any sort of bite to it. Where lettuce this time of the year, as it starts to bolt, it has a bit more of a bite. And I've got a lot of different varieties of sweet potato that haven't really taken off yet, but they soon will. And this here is society garlic. So I've got that in a few different clusters. Because I got it from Home Depot, I'm going to grow it out and then separate it off, because they do spray their plants and I want to get rid of anything that's in it before we start eating it. So I can separate that off and move it around, and I'll grow more plants out.
Boy, we've made a circle.
We made a circle.
I know it's not as thick because it's so hot, so a lot of stuff has at least, I don't want to say at least, but it's died back. Normally you can't walk through here when the weather's cooler, but a lot, even in my gardens,
And I have been clearing a lot because I want to get as much compost as I can. The sweet potato, I just keep sending it skyward, so it's out of my way.
So that's it. So what's here? There's strawberries, or are they just running wild?
Yeah, I had strawberries growing in totes here, and they set in the ground, and then I've got canna seeds that have just come up. I've got more purslane that just come up by itself, so some of this I'm going to transplant into other areas.
Now, let's bring this up since somebody's going to ask. It's shiny. You've got, this whole wall is covered in glass?
Glass, yeah. Sliding glass door glass.
The whole wall?
The whole wall to
Okay,
there.
So it's a windbreak?
It's a windbreak, and in the winter it's going to provide extra warmth. My tomatoes on the other side may be being affected by the reflected heat coming off the glass too. So that might be another reason they don't look so great. So what I should really do is put some shade cloth over the other side so that it doesn't reflect back.
Oh, you saw my face? I know what would be really good here. Peppers. They don't
Peppers?
like the wind.
Yeah,
Boy, totes all across here. All winter, you'll grow all these peppers here, because that's one thing I know. They don't like a draft. They don't like a breeze. I don't know about tomatoes, though. And the tomatoes are on the other side. That'll be really good. What do you think, Elsie? Don't care. She's watching you. Wherever you go, she goes. Well, that's it. So we've made a really nice circle. In this heat, the sun is starting to come up, and my camera's going to overheat soon because it's just been too hot. This is still, look how beautiful and green it is, even with the heat we've had.
even with the heat. The plants start to create their own microclimate once you've got enough of them, and a lot of these plants provide shade for the plants that don't like to be out in full sun.
Beautiful.
I know we've covered a lot of plants, we're going to miss some, but you know, there's a lot here.
Well, I can, off the bat, you've got lemon verbena, you've got garlic chives, you've got walking onions, you've got all sorts of cactus growing now, you've got mint, you've got so many things I can think of offhand we did not get to. I think you may have eggplant there.
Yeah, I've got an eggplant there,
Sage.
sage, Peruvian apple cactus, I don't think I mentioned that. I need to get that planted in the ground. I've got one planted over there, tucked away amongst the dragon fruit. The main thing I try to do is not bring in a lot of inputs. So I try to create my own soil by harvesting from my garden and recycling it back in.
You use the term inputs?
Inputs.
What does inputs mean?
Buying stuff for my garden.
Now, these ponds are old and they're still doing really well.
Yeah, these ponds are old and they're doing well. I've let some of them dry up because I really want to redo them a lot better than they are. Because I like the idea, like this one here, I've got it protected by the concrete blocks. So I've got the homemade concrete blocks covering the black plastic sheeting that's underneath. So these are lined with black plastic sheeting that protects the edge of the kiddie pool, and by having the concrete over it, that protects everything from the UV rays. So this one I've drained, so I'm going to use this as a bog garden. This one drained itself, so I'm going to dig these up, transplant these. I'll leave these and just have this as a bog.
Oh, and Swiss chard all over.
Swiss chard all over.
Oh, this is beautiful. A point that I heard and you heard we should bring up is anytime you get black sheeting, it should not be the roof type.
For pond liners?
Yes.
Yes. Well, if you're going to line a pond, you don't want the liner that they use for roofs. You want the liner that they use for ponds, because it's non-toxic.
And even some of the black sheeting you can get, they're a 5, so they're safe too. They're thinner though.
Yeah, the sheeting I use is 6 mil black plastic sheeting. It's 6 mil thick.
And I've noticed that the box on some of them say they're in the triangle 5, which is the same thing they use for food safe in the grocery stores for us.
Yep.
Otherwise you could end up with plastic that's toxic. If it's toxic to fish, it's toxic to us. That's a good way of looking at it. This is beautiful.
So I've had fish in the kiddie pools for 3-4 years now, and I know that's not toxic to fish. So I believe if it's not toxic to fish, it's not going to be toxic to grow in for us. Okay, so I think that's long enough for today. With that, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to leave a comment, feel free to leave a comment. If you'd like to subscribe to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. You'll find a lot of other interesting things. If you go to our channel, you can search through and you'll be able to find the range of different topics that we cover. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.